The moment the judge pressed play on the footage, the courtroom went silent. Then came a shaky gasp from the front row. Karen, our HOA president, clutched her pearls as her own face filled the courtroom TV. There she was, in broad daylight, strutting across my front porch in her gardening hat, clutching my Amazon boxes like a trophy. The courtroom murmured, the judge's brow arched, and she folded. Right there. But to understand how we got to that storm of poetic justice, we have to rewind. About 6 relentless months. Before we rewind the chaos, if you enjoy true homeowner justice stories that end in poetic payback, hit subscribe. There's a whole neighborhood's worth of them waiting. It all began last spring when I moved into my dream house in the Magnolia Hills HOA. It was a perfectly trimmed neighborhood, too perfect. Lawns like carpets, mailboxes identical, every flag positioned at the same military perfect tilt. I thought I'd stepped into peace. I didn't know I was stepping into her dominion. Karen introduced herself the first morning, clipboard in hand, smile strapped on like body armor. She called herself the guardian of community standards. Within 48 hours, I got my first HOA notice, improper placement of recycling bin. The bin had been visible for 30 minutes. 30. That was my first strike. At first, I laughed it off. Everyone joked about HOA Karens. But jokes melt fast when they start reaching into your personal space. Because after the notices came the weird stuff. Tiny little inconveniences designed to make me paranoid. Packages went missing. At first, 1 or 2. I thought it was porch pirates. But then it became a weekly ritual. Missing dog treats. A pair of headphones. A custom doormat I'd ordered for my partner's birthday, gone. Deliveries marked received, with photo proof of my porch, yet nothing there when I got home from work. It didn't stop at packages. Trash bags were mysteriously ripped open, sprinklers, accidentally, turned on just long enough to soak new Amazon boxes that did make it. I asked my neighbors about it, and the reactions told me everything I needed to know. The ones near Karen's house avoided direct answers. Oh well, maybe it's the delivery folks mixing things up again. A few women from the walking club gave me those smiles, you know, the kind that hide fear. Whatever power Karen had in this HOA, it was the unspoken kind, the step out of line and you'll regret it kind. It escalated from mild nuisance to full-on psychological warfare the day I received a formal letter accusing me of theft. She claimed someone had been not returning HOA packages that were accidentally delivered to the wrong address. According to her letter, she was deeply concerned by certain observations. That was the tipping point. I'd been stubbornly ignoring every provocation up to that moment, convinced things would settle if I played by the rules. I didn't realize this wasn't an HOA. It was her empire. That night, I sat in my living room looking at the letter, and something inside me clicked. Enough. I wasn't just going to prove my innocence. I was going to expose everything. I started digging through the HOA bylaws, learning just how far her authority really went. There was a golden line buried in all the legal fluff. Homeowners are entitled to privacy of property and protection from harassment. I printed it out, pinned it over my desk, and marked the start of my little crusade. I bought a camera system, discreet mini lenses the size of shirt buttons. 2 pointed at the porch, 1 behind the mailbox, and 1 angled low near the fence. I even slipped a tracking AirTag in the next outgoing package, disguised inside a poly bag just to see where it would disappear to. And when that AirTag pinged from inside a certain pastel green house 3 doors down, the same one trimmed with perfect hedges and 1 too many warning signs about community compliance, I knew exactly whose kingdom I had just entered. The first time I saw her on the footage, she moved like someone who owned the neighborhood. Clipboard tucked under her arm, she strutted up my walkway in broad daylight, adjusted my doormat with precision, and then knelt, casually scooping up 2 small boxes as if she were collecting her own mail. Not even subtle. No hoodie. No sneaky glances. Just raw entitlement on parade. I watched the timestamp, 2:43 p.m. She waved to the neighbor across the street as she tucked my package under her arm. That neighbor even waved back. The level of visual confidence was almost impressive in a sociopath sort of way. Still, I knew how HOAs worked. Perception was everything. She'd twist a story faster than police lights flicker. So I needed multiple layers of proof, video, GPS, and if possible, a third-party witness. I called up my friend Lena, a land surveyor and amateur tech genius, who had her own vendetta against her old HOA. I told her what I had. She came over that same night, laptop under one arm and a bag of Red Bulls in the other. All right, she smirked. Karen's kingdom, huh? I've been waiting my whole life for this mission. We synced the camera feeds to a cloud backup, set alerts for motion near the porch, and traced the AirTag again. 9:47 p.m., ping. Still inside Karen's house. We zoomed in on the Street View map, back right corner of her lot, near the garage. She didn't even think to block Bluetooth, Lena muttered. By week's end, I had 3 separate clips, each at different times, each showing her walking away with something small, but unmistakably mine. One had a label visible under her hand. My name, clear as daylight. That, I realized, was enough for the sheriff's office to take me seriously. The next morning, I paid a visit to Deputy Chapman, a no-nonsense officer with the tired eyes of a man who had attended one too many HOA disputes. I was fully prepared for skepticism. Instead, he chuckled halfway through the second clip. "Oh yeah," he said, "we know her. Calls us once a week about people using the wrong fertilizer." He scribbled down notes, gave me his email, and suggested I file a small claims report for property interference. "If you keep feeding me solid timestamps," he said, "I can route it through the DA. But I know these HOA types. You'll need a rock-solid confrontation piece." Rock solid. Got it. That night, Lena and I plotted what she called Operation Porchlight. We replaced one porch camera's visible housing with a damaged dummy and hid the real lens inside a flower pot. We rigged a motion sensor to light up the moment anyone stepped on my stairstep. An artificial accident, meant to make the thief feel caught, just a little too soon. Day 3, 5:11 p.m., she fell for it. Karen froze mid-porch when the light flicked on, glanced around, adjusted her hair, then casually, walked off empty-handed. But in her hand, the camera caught the telltale glint of my missing keychain from an earlier box. Evidence number 4. Now it was time to involve the HOA board themselves, the ones who'd been silent so far. I dropped by their next meeting, tucked in a collared shirt, printed images neatly stacked with labels. Karen wasn't there yet. I used that moment to talk to Mr. Rivera, an older board member who'd once retired from the Postal Service. "Sir," I said quietly, sliding the photos across, "I think your president's been intercepting deliveries." He frowned at first, until he saw the postmark on one image. That box was from us. That was the annual newsletter supply. The shift in his eyes told me everything. Suspicion was spreading within the kingdom walls. When Karen arrived, smiling in full community caretaker mode, Rivera didn't greet her. The atmosphere thinned. She noticed. Oh, she noticed, and her polite grin trembled for half a second. That night, Lena texted me. "She's cracking. Now give her the rope." We waited. And sure enough, like moth to porchlight, she returned, one last time. This time, the trap was legal. The deputy, unseen in his parked car down the street, watched her take the decoy parcel we'd agreed on. One clearly labeled with a hidden marker approved by law enforcement. The moment her garage door closed, Chapman knocked on it. And what started as whispers of suspicion erupted into full-blown scandal the next morning, when the HOA group chat lit up like wildfire. Karen's under investigation. Sheriff was at her house. Is this true? For the first time in months, I didn't dread the sound of my doorbell. The hearing took place on an overcast Tuesday, the kind of day that makes everything feel muted, like nature itself is holding its breath. I walked into the county courthouse carrying a neatly organized folder of evidence. Photos, time-stamped videos, AirTag records, and signed statements from 2 neighbors who'd finally broken their silence. For 6 months, they'd watched her collect wrongly delivered packages, too intimidated to say anything. But once law enforcement got involved, fear curdled into collective disgust. When Karen entered, she wore her crispest lavender blazer, eyes sharp with that familiar power smile. Her lawyer followed behind, shuffling a stack of glossy documents printed on HOA letterhead, probably meant to establish her as the innocent community volunteer. She took the stand first, spinning a performance that could have earned an award for arrogance. "As HOA president," she declared, "I often retrieve misdelivered parcels to ensure neighborhood safety. It's part of my duty. In no way did I intend to deprive anyone of property." For a second, her voice seemed convincing, steady, rehearsed, radiating smug efficiency. I could see the judge's polite expression give nothing away, so I stayed calm and waited for the storm to turn. Then it was my turn. I approached the display monitor, hands steady. Chapman, now in full uniform, stood by to authenticate the footage. With a click, I pressed play. There she was, captured in perfect high definition, smiling in her floral sun hat while taking not one, not two, but 4 distinct packages from my porch. Each video was dated, each tied to a confirmed delivery record. No blurred footage, no ambiguity. And in one clip, my favorite, she mouthed to herself, "He'll never learn," before walking off camera. The courtroom went still. Even her own lawyer blinked, then looked at her, frozen. Then came the final piece. The AirTag data projected on screen, charting a GPS trail from my porch straight to her house. Point for point, matching the exact time of the theft. The judge leaned forward, arms crossed. "Mrs. Hargrove," he said slowly, "you said you collected these for safekeeping. Where were they stored during that time?" She hesitated, a split-second delay that shouted guilt louder than a confession. In my garage. I was going to return them at the next HOA meeting." "And you didn't," he countered. "For several months." Her lawyer tried to intervene, fumbling about community misunderstanding and lack of malicious intent, but it was too late. The courtroom's energy had changed. I could feel her shrinking, physically, morally, under the fluorescent hum. Then came the twist none of us saw coming. Chapman quietly placed another photo on the evidence stand. A picture of half-open USPS-labeled boxes stacked in her garage from his search warrant visit. One box bore the HOA's return address, but was also registered under the County Maintenance Grant Fund. Turns out, she hadn't just been stealing from homeowners. She had been rerouting HOA supplies and even small county-funded maintenance deliveries for resale online. The judge's gavel hit once. "We're extending this to criminal review," he said. "Temporary removal from HOA leadership is immediate." Her face cracked. Not metaphorically, literally. That carefully composed, "I'm in control" expression shattered into something unrecognizable. The color drained, her hands trembled, and then, right there, she collapsed into the chair behind her, eyes wide with shock as whispers rippled through the courtroom. When the deputies helped her stand, she mumbled something about misunderstanding, about everyone ganging up. But her own board members wouldn't meet her eyes. Rivera even turned his chair away. It was over. After the trial, I walked out into the gray afternoon air, equal parts drained and relieved. The HOA board issued a formal apology, citing my patience and commitment to community integrity. Karen's role was permanently revoked, and a local prosecutor later confirmed misdemeanor charges for theft and misuse of HOA funds. Neighbors who'd once avoided eye contact now waved when I walked by. The air in Magnolia Hills felt lighter, fewer fake smiles, more genuine hellos. Fittingly, the first real package I received afterward was a small one, a card from Rivera. Inside it read, "Every kingdom falls when truth knocks loud enough." Below that, a $5 Starbucks gift card. I laughed harder than I had in months. As weeks passed, the story spread beyond our neighborhood, morphing into a cautionary tale for HOAs everywhere. Security camera sales probably saw a spike. And me? I learned the simplest, hardest truth of all. Decency doesn't need permission, but entitlement always demands obedience. And the moment you stop giving it, bullies crumble. So now, every time a new neighbor moves in, I tell them one thing, with a grin. Keep your porch lit, your cameras rolling, and your bylaws handy. Because even kingdom queens fall, eventually.